Hello everyone, good day. So in this video, we are going to talk about a certain subject in a Bachelor of Science in Customs Administration course, and its title is Border Control and Security. My name is Seychelle Ann H. Marasigan. I am licensed customs broker by profession, and I am a faculty at Lemery Colleges of Bachelor of Science in Customs Administration. So for this video, we are going to talk about Customs Jurisdiction and Control, or Section 300 to 306 of the CMTA, or the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act. So let's start with Title 3 of the RA 10863 of the CMTA, Chapter 1, entitled Customs Jurisdiction and Customs Control. What is jurisdiction? Jurisdiction comes from the Latin word juris, which means law, and dictio, which means declaration, which is the practical authority granted to a legal body to administer justice as defined by the kind of case and the location of the issue or its situs. Colloquially, it is used to refer to the geographical area to which such authority applies. The legal term refers only to the granted authority, not a geographical area. Section 300. Title is Customs Jurisdiction. For the effective implementation of this Act, the Bureau shall exercise jurisdiction over all seas within Philippine territory and all coast, ports, airports, harbors, bays, rivers, and inland waters, whether navigable or not from the sea, and any means of conveyance. The Bureau shall pursue imported goods and subject to seizure during its transport by land, water, and air, and shall exercise jurisdiction as may be necessary for the effective enforcement of this Act. When a vessel or aircraft becomes subject to seizure for violation of this Act, a pursuit of such vessel or aircraft which began within the territorial waters or airspace may continue beyond the same, and the vessel or aircraft may be seized in the high seas or international airspace. So what do we mean first by coast? Coast is the part of the land near the sea or the edge of the land. Ports, these are inland town or city whose connection to the coast by a river or another body of water which enables it to act as a port. Okay, so for us to be able to understand it further, let us first check what is the mean or how does a coast looks like. Okay, so let us first look for the image of a coast. Okay, so the coast looks like this. Okay, so it has a body of water and a land beside it. Okay, so that is what a coast looks like. So a port, this is an inland town or city whose connection to the coast or by the river or any other body of water enable it to act as a port. Okay, next is airport. This is a complex of runways on buildings for the takeoff, landing, and maintenance of civil aircraft, which facilities for passengers. Harbor, a place on the coast where vessels may find shelter, especially one protected from rough waters by piers, jetties, and other artificial structures. Bays, a broad inlet of the sea where the land curves inward. Rivers, a large natural stream of water flowing in a channel to the sea, a lake or another such stream. Inland water, any of the waters as lake, canals, rivers, water courses, inlets, and bays within the territory of a state, as contrasted with the open seas or marginal waters bordering another state, subject to various sovereign rights of the bordering state. High seas, the open ocean, especially that not within any country's jurisdiction. International space is the portion of the atmosphere controlled by a country above its territory, including its territorial waters, or more generally, any specific three-dimensional portion of the atmosphere. It is not the same as aerospace, which is the general term for Earth's atmosphere and the outer space in its vicinity. Conveyance. Conveyance is a formal word that can mean either the transportation of something from one place to another or the vehicle that does the transporting. Seizure, the action of capturing someone or something using force. Pursuit, the action of following or pursuing someone or something. So let's go back to section 300. So section 300 is telling about at which extent shall the Bureau of Customs exercise its jurisdiction. Okay, so in this section, it tells that the Bureau of Customs should have jurisdiction or authority over all seas within the Philippine territory. So all of the sea or body of water inside the Philippines, they have authority over that, or they can control that particular part of the body of water or the seas inside the Philippines. And also they have the jurisdiction on the coast, ports, airports, harbors, bays, rivers, and inland waters, which says here whether navigable or not from the sea. It means that even though that it is not navigable or not from the sea by any means of conveyance or transport. For example, a vessel or a ship. So those still concludes the customs jurisdiction. Okay, and then it also says here, section 300, that the Bureau shall still pursue imported goods that are subject to seizure, meaning they should still follow the imported goods that are subject to seizure during its transport by land, water, and air. So for example, a certain commodity or a certain goods or article is subject to seizure, or it has violated any law in the Bureau of Customs, then it should be the authority of the Bureau of Customs to do something about that, or to follow that particular imported goods. Okay, so they also have a jurisdiction over that particular imported good, and also they also have jurisdiction and control over the vessel or aircraft which will be subject to seizure in case of violation of this act, and they can still follow that particular vessel or aircraft inside the territorial water of the Philippines up to the territorial water of the Philippines and also its airspace, and they can still follow the vessel or aircraft if they go as far as the high seas or the international airspace. So although the vessel or aircraft is already outside the Philippine territory, for example, they are already in the high seas or in the international airspace as what we have defined earlier, the Bureau of Customs still has the jurisdiction to follow or to seize or to arrest that particular vessel or aircraft who violated any laws in this act, because they are given the jurisdiction to do that in Section 300 of the CMTA. Title 3 of the RA 10863 of the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act, Chapter 1, entitled Customs Control. So first, let us study the meaning of control. So when we talk about control, it means power or authority to guide or manage. Okay. Section 301, title Customs Control over Goods. So all goods, including means of transport, entering or leaving the customs territory, regardless of whether they are liable to duties and taxes, shall be subject to customs control to ensure compliance with this act. In the application of customs control, the Bureau shall employ audit-based controls and risk management systems, use automation to the fullest extent possible, and adopt a compliance measurement strategy to support risk management. The Bureau shall seek to cooperate and conclude mutual administrative assistance agreements with other customs administrations to enhance customs control. The Bureau shall consult, coordinate, and cooperate with other government regulatory agencies, free zones authorities, and the customs stakeholders in general to enhance customs control. So for this section, let us first study the meaning of the word goods. So when we talk about goods, it shall refer to articles, wares, merchandise, and any other items which may include Philippine and foreign notes and coins. So meaning of note is money that is imported or exported beyond the allowable amounts prescribed by the law. And in this section, when we talk about bureau, it means the Bureau of Customs. Okay, so section 301 is telling us that the Bureau of Customs has control over all the goods. Okay, and this goods includes the means of transport. For example, the goods is inside the vessel or is inside the aircraft, then and it is entering or leaving the customs territory. Okay, regardless whether or not they are liable to duties and taxes, all of these goods shall be subject to the customs control, so that they would know that it will be following the laws in the CMTA. Okay, so the Bureau of Customs should monitor the entrance and exit of the goods to and from the Philippines. Okay, so in application of this control, they or the Bureau should employ audit-based control and risk management system. That means they should be using an automated system wherein they can see the entrance and clearance of vessel and aircraft and the goods that is inside of it to the fullest extent possible. Okay, and they should be adopting a compliance measurement strategy to support the risk management. So as of this moment, the Bureau of Customs is already automated. Okay, so they are already using online transactions or online monitoring of all the goods that are coming in and out of the Philippines. So as of this moment, they are already using the E2M system and also the selectivity system, wherein they are checking whether the good is on green lane, yellow lane, or red lane. Okay, so those topics will be discussed in the near future. The Bureau shall seek to cooperate and conclude mutual administrative assistance agreements with our customs administration to enhance customs control. So, Section 301 also tells us that the Bureau of Customs should be asking help from other government agencies for them to be able to perform their mandate at the most. Okay, because the Bureau of Customs cannot work on by itself, and since there are a lot of commodities and goods that are subject to regulations by other government agencies, so it is a must that they ask help from them for the clearance of those particular goods, for them to be able to fulfill and for them to be able to govern that particular good that is entering the country, and to know whether or not they need permits for them to be able to be cleared in the Bureau of Customs. Section 302, Enforcement of Port Regulation of the Bureau of Quarantine. Customs officials and employees shall cooperate with the quarantine authorities in the enforcement of the port quarantine regulations promulgated by the Bureau of Quarantine, and shall give effect to the same insofar as connected with matters of shipping and navigation. So the Section 302 of the CMTA tells us that the Bureau of Customs should be asking help from the Bureau of Quarantine insofar as shipping and navigation is connected. So since we are working with the Bureau of Quarantine in connection with the clearance of the cargos, if ever they are safe to be entered into the Philippines or not. So it is their duty to know whether or not a certain commodity is safe to be to come into the Philippines or to be consumed by the Filipinos or any people here in the Philippines. So this mandates also follows the Section 301 of the CMTA that tells that the Bureau of Customs should be working with other government agencies. So Section 302 just focus on the relationship of the Bureau of Quarantine to the Bureau of Customs. Section 303, Control over premises used for customs purposes. The Bureau shall, for customs purposes, have exclusive control, direction, and management of customs offices, facilities, warehouses, ports, airports, wharves, infrastructures, and other premises in the customs district, in all cases without prejudice to the general police powers of the local government units or LGU, the Philippine Coast Guard, and the law enforcement agencies in the exercise of their respective functions. So Section 303 of the CMTA is just telling us that the Bureau of Customs has its control over those places outside its offices. So for example, there is a warehouse outside of the Bureau of Customs, then the Bureau of Customs still has control and authority over that particular place. Okay, so for example, a certain facility or port or airport or wharves is being used for the entrance and clearance of vessels or aircrafts, then the Bureau of Customs has control over those particular places. Okay, and when we talk about for customs purposes, it means that the Bureau of Customs should be able to do their mandates or their functions like the proper collection of revenue and the prevention of smuggling. Customs districts in all cases without prejudice to the general police power of the LGU, Philippine Coast Guard, and law enforcement agencies in the exercise of their respective functions. Okay, so even any other customs districts or ports inside the Philippines, the Bureau of Customs has control over it, but they should be also aware that there is a local government unit in that particular place where that particular customs district is, and that they should also be following their protocols. Okay, so they should ask help from them, from the LGUs, the Philippine Coast Guard, and all the other law enforcement agencies such as the PNP in the exercise of their functions. Section 304. Power of the President to subject premises to customs jurisdiction. When public interest requires, the President may, by executive order, declare any public wharf, landing place, infrastructure, street, or land in any port of entry under the jurisdiction of the Bureau as may be necessary for customs purposes and or to authorize a port or terminal operator to transfer overstaying cargoes in an inland depot or terminal. Okay, Section 304 is pertaining about the President of the Philippines. So the President that is being discussed in Section 304 is the President of the Philippines, which is who is given the power to subject any places under the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Customs when public interest requires. So when we talk about public interest, we are pertaining to the welfare or well-being of the general public and the society. Okay? And those places can be declared by the President to be used for customs purposes by creating an executive order, which is a rule or order that is issued by the President to an executive branch of the government and having the force of law. So that means executive orders is a law, and it should be followed by all the people that is affected by that particular executive order. Okay, and that includes any wharf or any landing place, infrastructure, street, or land in any port of entry. So when we talk about wharf, we are talking about a level quayside area to which a ship may be moored to load and unload. Okay, and when we talk about landing place, we are pertaining to a place where people or goods can be landed from a boat or ship. Okay, and when we talk about infrastructure, we are pertaining to the basic physical and organizational structures and facilities. So that means buildings, roads, powers, and power supplies needed for the operation of the society or enterprise. So those are the places that the President can convert into a place wherein the customs could have jurisdiction into. And those places should be in the port of entry. That means it is a harbor, border, town, or airport by which the people and goods may enter a country. So that is what Section 304 is telling us. And also, the President has the power to authorize a port or a terminal operator to transfer the overstaying cargo in an inland depot or terminal. When we talk about overstaying cargoes, we are pertaining to cargoes that has been in the pier or any places in a port of entry that is already staying outside of the stipulated storage schedule, or the time of storage for them to stay on that particular place has already lapsed, and it needs to be transferred in a different area, just like Section 304 is saying, in an inland depot or in another terminal. Section 305, trespass or obstruction of customs premises. No person shall enter or obstruct a customs office, warehouse, port, airport, wharf, or other premises under the control of the Bureau without prior authority, including the streets or alleys where these facilities are located. So Section 305 is telling us that there should be no one to enter or obstruct a customs office, warehouse, port, and any other places that is under the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Customs. So when we talk about trespass, it means the owner's land or property without permission. It means to enter the owner's land or property without permission. And when we talk about obstruction, we are pertaining to a thing that impedes or prevents passage or progress, an obstacle or a blockage. So for example, a certain warehouse is subject to search. Okay, so no person or not anyone should be able to prevent the Bureau from entering that particular warehouse. Okay, so if a person or if the owner will be able to obstruct anyone from the Bureau of Customs to enter his or her warehouse to do a search of a certain commodity, okay, with a certain search warrant, then it will be unlawful for them to do that. Okay, they will be liable for a crime of violating Section 305 of the CMTA. Okay, so that is obstruction. But when we talk about trespass, for example, a certain warehouse was people tried to enter a certain warehouse without any permission from the people inside that particular warehouse or the owner of that warehouse, then it will be a violation of Section 305 of the CMTA. Okay, and also when we are talking about this trespass and obstruction, it also includes the streets and the alleys where these facilities are located. So it is not only pertaining to the facilities itself, or for example the warehouse or the customs office itself or the port or airport, but it also includes all the other streets or alleys that is located outside of that particular place. Okay, and lastly, Section 306, the title is Special Surveillance for the Protection of Customs Revenue and Prevention of Smuggling. The Bureau shall conduct surveillance on vessels or aircrafts entering Philippine territory and on imported goods entering the Customs Office, provided that the function of the Philippine Coast Guard to prevent and suppress the illegal entry of these goods, smuggling and other forms of customs fraud and violations of maritime law, and its proper surveillance of vessels entering or leaving Philippine territory as provided in Republic Act 9993, otherwise known as the Philippine Coast Guard Law of 2009, shall continue to be enforced. Okay, so Section 306 is telling us about a special surveillance to protect the government revenue and also to prevent the smuggling. So the Bureau has been given the control and authority to do a surveillance, okay, or to do a search of a particular vessel or aircraft, or to follow a particular vessel or aircraft that is entering the Philippine territory with the intention to unload or with the intention to do importation. Okay, so all the goods that is entering the Philippines should enter the customs office. Okay, that means the Bureau of Customs has all the authority over all the goods that is entering the Bureau of Customs. Okay, so for example, a vessel that is on the Philippine waters is subject for search. Okay, or for example, they have been reported that they are carrying a certain smuggled goods when they are still on the Philippine seas. Okay, so the vessel is on the Philippine seas yet and has not arrived at the ports yet. Okay, and then there is an alert order that that particular vessel is carrying smuggled goods. Then the Bureau of Customs can have the authority to conduct surveillance. Okay, provided further, as Section 306 is telling us, that they should be asking help from the Philippine Coast Guard, since the Philippine Coast Guard is the ones who has the authority also over the Philippine seas. Okay, so it is just telling us, just like the Section 301 of the CMTA, that the Bureau of Customs should always ask help from any government agencies that has also the power to do the mandates that they have, or they do have the same function, because as what we all know, the Philippine Coast Guard also has the power to look over all the seas in the Philippines. Okay, so when there is a vessel that is subject for surveillance, then the Bureau of Customs should be asking help from the Philippine Coast Guard, okay, for that particular vessel to be searched. Okay, and since the Philippine Coast Guard also has a mandate to check if there is any violation of the maritime law, okay, that is the reason why they also have the power and authority and control to search or to survey that particular vessel under alert for a particular smuggling crime. Okay, so that is what Section 300 to 306 of the CMTA is telling us about. Okay, so since the Bureau of Customs is a government agency that has the function of collection of the proper government revenue and prevention and suppression of smuggling, then it is really their duty to have the control and authority over all the things that is coming in and out of the country, especially the vessels and aircrafts that are carrying the goods that are being imported from other countries. So it is their mandate and their control to make sure that these vessels and aircrafts are following the law of the Philippines regarding the customs and tariff, and that they are not committing any smuggling that may cause trouble into our country.